Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly scenario in Noctie. And this week we are dealing with this position. And yes, this is a tricky one. So I hope you were not too sorry if you couldn't make it against Noctie when you tried the first time. But what I will try to do is to give you the ideas so that you can play it better and maybe even win. So when you have this type of position, the first thing you do is to try to identify the imbalances. And in our case, you can see that white has got a rook on f1 and black has got a knight on d7. Beside this, black has got two extra pawns on c7 and d6, and that means that it should be roughly equal in the position. But it is white to play, and white has got a really good move, and if you found that, you should be happy. Queen a4 is threatening both on d7 and on a5. This means that white will actually win a pawn, and with that, no doubt, white is better. One problem for black is that after knight c5, there will be a checkmate on e8, so that was not a good move. Instead, black needs to play knight to f6 to cover up the e8 square. And after queen take a5, we have an interesting position. So how should you think if you have this position, both as white and as black? First of all, the white idea, number one, is obvious, and that is to run with the a-pawn to try to get a new queen. The queen and the rook will try to support the a-pawn as good as possible. Beside this, there is a good way of thinking when you have positions with queens on the board, and that is to ask yourself, who will be better off if the queens are swapped off? And in this case, there is no doubt that this would be in white's favor, because a rook and a passed pawn are very strong together if the opponent only has got a knight, because then the rook can support the pawn and white will normally win easily if you can swap off the queens. So you have two plans as white to push the a-pawn or to swap off queens. Black needs to find a way to either stop the a-pawn by putting a queen maybe the queen should be on e2 and the knight on c5, because then you have control of a6. So that is one idea. The other idea is to go for a counterattack on the white's king. The reason is that a queen and a knight is known to be very strong in an attack, and a rook on f1 can hardly support a pawn on g2 or h2. So if you can get the queen and your knight in a good position, then there might be possibilities to go for an attack. So white is actually now threatening on c7, so black needs to do something about that. And there are two choices. Number one is knight to d5 to cover up on c7. And now white should probably play like queen a8 check and then start to push the a-pawn, like I said before. And one problem for black when playing like this is that the knight will come very defensive. So let's see what happens here. a5, knight b4, rook, queen to b7 is a strong move, knight to a6. Okay, the knight now has stopped the a-pawn and is covering up on c7. That is good, but it's very passive. And now white has got actually a nice plan. Maybe you start with h3 just to get some space for the king, so there will never be any back rank checkmate. Maybe black tries to do something with h5. Now white has got the plan of playing the queen to c6 and then c4, and with that you ensure that there will be a swap of queens, and after that quite easily winning. So h4, queen c6, king e7, queen c4, and now queen take on c4, rook take on c4, g5, rook c6, and after this it's game over. The knight needs to go to b8, and now white can simply take on c7, winning easily. So that was one possibility, but in this position, when white is threatening on c7, black can do a little bit better with queen c2, I believe. After a4, black has got a little bit more active knight on e4. Okay, still queen b5 is a very strong move, I believe, because after now you're threatening to go to e8 or just to play a5. So maybe c6 is the only move, but now white has got a little bit of a tactical idea And this is also something you should always be open for, and that is not to get too stuck into your ideas, but white can actually play queen to b7, and after queen take a4, queen e7. Now white is threatening both to go for checkmate on e8 and to take the e6 pawn, and when the e6 pawn gets lost, then actually the black pawns are falling off, and all these pawns on f5, d6, c6 will be very vulnerable, and white will win quite easily. Okay, so maybe it's time for me now to try to play this against Noctie, and let's do that. So, Noctie, I am ready for you. So, I start with, of course, queen to a4. Threatening the knight. Okay, knight f6. I take on a5, and now let's see what Noctie is doing. Okay, knight to d5. I go for check on a8. And now a4, I start to push like this. Okay, so the question is, should I play this move maybe? Queen to c6, just to avoid. Okay, that was a bit of a surprise. I take on d6 like this. And now I take on here. And we have a position where I have a rook and a queen against a knight and a queen. They're equal when it comes to pawns, so I've won a pawn, and this is actually a winning position for white. But of course, Noctie can fight, so please try to do that. Okay, so now the queen went to a2. I play h3 just to give some space, like I said before. Okay, so Noctie is fighting, you could say, but I want to swap off queens. You remember? That was something you wanted, even though now it is not exactly the same as before, but still it is a good this is a good position for white, of course. I really want to swap off queens. Let's go for this, queen d4, like this. Okay. And now maybe I should play g4 here, just to try to open up against the white-black king. This could be done like this. Okay, so played like that. It's my move. I go for this move like this. Okay, it's really, she's playing quite tough here, I believe. So maybe I should play g5 like this. Interesting. So I can take on f6 here. Okay, let's do that. See if there is any... I cannot see that there is any way to get a perpetual here with black. Okay, but now I'm very easily winning, I guess. But okay, she wants to fight, so let's do that. I go here, like this. Queen d7. I really want to swap off queens, of course. But now Noctie is fighting. I play check here, like this. And I play, let's go for this move, like that. Rook to d6. Okay, I go here. But come on, Noctie. I take your queen. I take on f6. Like this. And I have some extra things here, Go up. Okay. As you can see, this is an easy win for white. I will win the e5 pawn as well, like this. Okay, I take the pawn, and we have a classical rook against the king. And now it's more a question of how to win as quick as possible. Well, I tried like this. I go here. I go here. And now we have a classical checkmate when the king is just in front of the opponent's king, covering up, and the king the rook gives the check. So, as you could see, Noctie tried to do something. I could actually win quite easily by just playing logical moves when I had this idea after queen a4 to push the a pawn. Well, that was that for today. Bye.